welcome to the next episode of It's Your Time to Shine, a podcast about being a mom in a modern world. My name is Jaspreet Kaur, and with me is my best friend, Lisa Vora.
Hey, Jess, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am awesome. I'm awesome. I was actually just working on the documentary, and I was reading through all my transcripts and all my interviews, and you're hilarious.
I am? Oh, thank you. I don't think I plan to be.
Yeah, it was hard because I'm trying to pick and choose, right? Because I interviewed 6 moms. So I have to pick and choose my bites. And I'm having such a hard time letting go of yours. But I have to because I can't give you more time than others. I have to keep it even. But I'm just letting you know. And I don't want my other moms to think they're not funny. Everyone's funny. That's what makes this awesome. But you're hilarious.
Oh, that's so funny. I hear the sound of backpedaling.
Well, I realize, all of them are my friends and they're all awesome. But you were just really, really funny. I'm trying to actually find some bites. Maybe later I'll find some bites and share them with you.
Oh, that would be funny.
Because you probably forgot what you said, right?
I did forget, but the good thing is that one of my rules, my life rules, is just always be honest, and that way you're never surprised when someone's recording you and plays it back later.
Oh, just wait and see what I got out of you. Regrets. Especially the question about what would you admit now that you wouldn't admit as a new parent.
Oh my gosh, I don't even remember that one. Okay, I can't wait.
I do have some big news for you. I have big news.
Oh, awesome. Okay, before you tell me about your big news, I have to tell you 2 things. One, I cannot wait to see this award-winning documentary that's coming out in 2018 for our listeners.
Aw, thanks.
For our listeners, you'll have to give more info on where and how they can see that. And obviously, we'll post it in the show notes as well on our site. And then second thing, I feel like this isn't big news, but I think it is important and relevant to the podcast. I want you to know that I am recording today from inside of my kids' fort.
That sounds like so much fun.
It's actually really fantastic. I'll have to try to take a picture of it. It's hard to take a picture of a fort because one of the rules of a good fort is that you can't tell from the outside how awesome it is on the inside.
But if anyone can do it, it's you. You are a resident photographer for everything.
Okay, I'm gonna work on trying to take a really good
no
picture
pressure.
Of it. Yeah. So I thought we've had a couple of times where the recording hasn't been great, either because I'm working or you're working or situations have changed. And I'm home today to record, so I thought, let me go into a place and really channel the inner creativity.
Yeah, no, it sounds so nice.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
Meanwhile, I'm still in my closet.
Yeah, there you go.
And it's really messy closet, can I add? Really messy. Jeez.
Okay, so what's your news?
All right, you ready for this? You were there for the conception, and I want you to be here when you finally hear the end, okay?
Oh my gosh, spit this out quickly because our listeners are wondering why I was there for the conception.
All right. I canceled my Bally's membership.
Oh my gosh, are you serious? You still had that?
I know. Oh my God, Samir's been on me for 5 years. Prior to that, I never cared because, it's just $20 a month. But once, Samir came into the picture, he's like, it's $20 a month. Do you know what that is a year? Do you know what that is in 5 years? Anyway, so I wouldn't do it. And then, you know what? And you know why? Because you've heard the stories, right? It's really hard to cancel Bally's. They make it impossible, right?
Yes, they're like Facebook, right?
Yeah, it just makes it, exactly. They make it impossible. So I was kind of just deferring it and kicking the can down the road. And then we were kind of doing budgeting, and I told Samir how I wanted Hulu now because I really want to watch, what's that show? The Handmaid's Tale, right?
Yes.
And also reruns of 90210. Anyway, but he's like, we're only going to get Hulu if you cancel Bally's. So I'm like, challenge accepted. So Samir's all like, I can't believe that's what drove you finally, just to get Hulu. I'm like, yeah, I just need something to motivate me. Anyway, long story short, it was really easy. That's the big joke of this whole thing. I went into Bally's. I talked to the manager, straight shooter. He's like, I was like, are you sure this was a little too easy? He's like, no, I'm just going to cancel it. And I was like, okay, do you need my ID? He's like, I saw it. I'm like, do you need to take a Xerox copy? No, it's good. I was like, seriously? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. Then he looked at me. He's like, why are you looking at me like I'm not going to do it? I'm like, because haven't you heard the stories? You can't cancel Bally's. And he's like, we'll do it. It's like, okay, can you email me? Make sure. Yes. Anyway, so one day later, I get an email. They canceled it. It's done. That's it. It's not really the greatest story. It's just that we started our Bally's journey together. Remember?
I remember very well, 1995.
And when did you cancel?
Okay, so here's a confession.
Oh no.
No, I don't have a Bally's membership.
So what about you? What's your big news, Jess?
My big news, I don't have any big news. I have small news, which is I'm back to normal life after 3 weeks of vacation. 3 weeks.
Oh wow, 3 weeks. How was it? How was your vacation?
It was incredible and amazing, but not for all the reasons that you might be thinking. So it was awesome. Had a great time, totally relaxed. I've never taken a 3 week vacation before in my life, and I didn't intend to for this vacation either. I was supposed to work the last week, but things fell through and I wasn't able to work on the project that I was planning to work on remotely. And so I ended up I had the time off. So I was like, I'm just going to take the time off, just use PTO. And I cannot think of a time where I have been with my kids in recent years, like 24/7 for 3 weeks straight. It's been a long time because, normally you have soccer or
Right,
volleyball or some
right.
camp or I'm at work or they're at school or something, right? But and it's not like I was glued to glued at the hip with them or anything. We did some things on our own, some things different, but just the fact that we were all together, traveling together and stuff.
You actually get to know your kids on vacation sometimes.
Yeah, totally. We had such a great time. Okay, well, let me tell you about why it was a really awesome vacation and what I learned about my kids. We did 2 or 3 days where we really hardcore explored new cities that we'd never been to before. And then the rest of the time, my kids were like, no, we just want to hang out. Like, we'll just sit on the balcony or go to a park and put down a blanket and sit on a blanket and play duck, duck, goose or look for dandelions and pull them. And we just did that. We played cards one day in the park. It was so amazing.
This sounds so nice. Yeah.
It was really nice.
Because sometimes it gets hectic, right? Just to always do something. So it sounds like a nice balance between we'll do a little exploration, but then we'll just have downtime and chill.
Yeah, we did about maybe 15% of the time was exploration, and all the
Yeah.
rest was just chilling,
That
seeing
sounds awesome.
family, hanging out with people. So one of the places that we went was England, and both my mom's side and my dad's side of the family lives there, and then Buttum's dad's side of the family lives there as well. And so that was so nice because the kids were actually interested in meeting their cousins and aunts and uncles, and the family was excited to see them, and they just played. And the thing I love about kids, it does not matter who you are, what your personality is, it doesn't matter where you're from. Every trip that we made, every house that we went to, within about an hour or so, the kids were in the backyard either playing with a football or playing with a soccer ball and just, kicking the ball around or playing on the swings. I just thought that was really amazing. And for the kids to be in these really majestic and old places, because compared to England and Rome, Texas is not old, and just see the grandeur of all that, that was really cool.
I think vacations are so important, especially if you can, obviously, if you can afford places like that, but just for these kids to see a world outside of themselves, outside of their walls, wherever they're living.
And I loved how in England, there's a really wonderful balance between etiquette and doing things properly and just living within your means, a lot less pretense there, small houses, small yards, small cars, and people are just happy.
Oh, yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, we all know more stuff doesn't necessarily mean happiness. Seems like it's more part of their culture.
Well, we know that the culture of the school system, the education system is driven by the type of workforce that the local government wants to generate, right? So it also makes sense that in a country that's so small like England, and there's quite a few blue collar jobs, that the
Right.
idea of just being happy with a smaller house and be happy with a small garden. And it's not for lack of space. It's not like people have small backyards because there's no open land, because you know this, you travel the countryside in England and it's all you see is rolling hills. It's wonderful.
Oh my God, they were beautiful. I remember that. Yeah. I also remember not having any homework and playing a lot. I don't know if that's still what they do. And I know it's also the time. That was, 35 years ago. So we're in a different time anyway. But yeah, I remember no homework and I played more and I spent more time with my family. So I don't know if there's a correlation, but just seems like with that kind of a foundation, you may not have to make up for it as much later in life with lavish stuff.
Yeah, I think so too. And I the one thing that I really liked is like the Brits, they love to travel and they travel on a budget. Like there's no sense of like, oh, I don't have enough money to go to XYZ. Well, one, they're centrally located, but they have so many cheapo airlines.
I was about to say, I think it's really cheap to go from England to all these different places. The airlines are really cheap there.
It's so cheap, Lisa. It's like 20, $30.
We did that. I went to because Germany's surrounded by like what, 11, 12 countries? So we went to like all of them because it was just so close and so easy to travel.
No, I think that's really awesome. And you could travel by train, right? In Germany, probably to a lot of places.
Train. We generally drove, but you could, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I want to, there was no like train, international train included on like this trip, but I'd like to expose the kids to that. But I think they got a sense of like being in another country that's totally different. They've been to Costa Rica and Mexico, but I don't think they remember any of the other countries that they've been to. So this was kind of like a different experience. And I will say, like we've talked about before, how vacation can really be a lot of work, especially for moms. If you are a mom that tends to do a lot of the planning and packing, vacations sometimes don't feel like vacations, right?
No, you're right. I was actually just talking to Samir about that because Ali and I are coming to your neck of the woods in a few weeks. And I told Samir, you got to give me a whole day before and a whole day after, just so I can plan the day before and then kind of recuperate the day after. Otherwise, it's just too much of vacation. It's like more work then.
Yeah, it becomes stressful. And I think like there's a couple of things that made this trip a lot less stressful. One big part is that the kids are older and so they can walk a little bit more and help with the packing and things. Although that backfired a little bit because I had one child who had super long sleeve and sweatshirts and it was like a heat wave in England.
Oh, no.
So I ended up buying her a bunch of clothes. And then I had one child who brought like all of her, none of her clothes matched. Like the tops didn't match the bottoms.
Oh, man. So it still needs to be supervised.
It does. And you know what? The thing is, like, I remember I said last time that I helicopter. And then I say like, oh, bring a dress. I'm like, no, not that dress. Right. So this time I was like, I'm not going to do that. And work was the craziest it's ever been for me the week before I left. So I was really stressed. I packed in like 3 hours the night before our flight. It was crazy. And so I just said, okay, I'm going to trust that they have it. They have 4 outfits.
Right.
And so 4 outfits I wrote as like 4 shirts, 4 pairs of pants.
Right.
Or 4 shirts and 4 skirts. And I have a 9-year-old who got 4 shirts, 4 pants, and 2 skirts, but never, like no color coordination at all between any of them. And, one thinks, okay, well, statistically, what are the chances
that none of them would match? Right.
You think that, right? Well, guess what?
Yeah.
The odds were ever in our favor.
None of them matched.
So I ended up buying her a few things as well.
Oh, man. Whatever. She just walk around not matching.
She's totally fine with it. She was like, this kind of matches. And she was, and on top of it, both of my girls were wearing like Let It Snow gear. And there's like a heat wave in Europe. There's no air conditioning. And people are looking at them like, what? Where are you from?
You Americans are weird.
So I was like, okay, so I said a sweatshirt. I didn't really mean a snowman sweatshirt. That's so funny. But the thing that I learned was like, it really doesn't matter. Problems can be solved. We live in a modern world. And we ended up picking up some clothes that they super like love. And it's like a nice memory for them because, they bought it in another country.
And then another suitcase so that you could bring it back.
That's right. Yeah. And another thing is that I realized on the trip that it took me 7 days, a full week, to really let go of work. Stop checking my email, stop texting with people from work, checking in on if a contract was signed.
Oh, wow. That's very telling.
It took me, so we left on a Thursday. It took me until the following Wednesday night to just be like, man, forget this.
So you have to have a vacation more than 7 days. in order to get an actual vacation out of it.
Yeah, and I never had that awareness before, so that was really good.
It's interesting because usually people don't take vacations. I mean, in general, it's
Yes.
hard to take that long a vacation. So it required you to have that long a vacation to get to that point to understand that maybe you weren't really vacationing if it's only 7 days.
Yeah, and it really like changed my mindset a little bit. But since we came back, I I've been like relaxing and de-stressed, of course, but I feel like I've also been connecting with people a little bit better and having better conversations with my own kids because we were together for so long. We bonded. And that those first couple days, like I have to
Aw.
admit that when I am like stressed because of work, I'm snapping at everyone. Like someone's asking me a question and
Right.
I'm like, can you hold on a second? And then I realize like since I've come back, like I really need to stop what I'm doing, switch to the next thing, and then, answer the question of the person who's in front of me. And so that's like on my list of things to work on and just to remember. And I'm like really, really taking that seriously for the next couple of weeks.
And then there'll be an expiration date. I'm just kidding.
There will be. Well, then I'll have other things to work on.
I'm joking. No, I think it's very cool that you're doing that. I think that this vacation was not only a vacation for you to rest, you use the time for some self reflection, which is what it's supposed to be about. And then act on that when you come back.
It's hard to self-reflect.
Oh, it is. I think to have an honest conversation with yourself is like one of the hardest things to do. I think that's why people have such a hard time with anything like dieting, working out, because you don't want to have that honest conversation.
Right. It is. I think it's very difficult. And then we create a world for ourselves that makes it very difficult as well because there's lots of things to fill our minds. And I said about 25 times on our vacation that it was no device time, like it's time for no devices. And my kids,
Yeah.
especially my youngest one, was like, but I'm bored, but I'm bored. So I started saying to her, being bored is good for your brain.
It is. It is. It helps you with creativity. That's the latest research, ladies and gentlemen. Being bored fosters creativity.
Right. And it actually is like really, really good for you to be bored because you have to get over quieting the mind without something else, right? To be able to quiet your own mind. And adults struggle with this. Like, I'm not trying to make it sound like, hey, kid, you should be able to do this. But I'm like, this is practice. And the more you practice as a young person, the easier it's going to get as you get older. So we stayed with a bunch of people in England that had lofts, loft conversions or loft extensions. And so you have like these beautiful A-frame old houses with skylights that we would pop open in the evenings. And you could look out and see just garden after garden or rooftop after rooftop. And so I started telling her, when you can't quiet your mind and you feel bored, just look out the window. And so she's like literally sticking her head out the skylight. And then, it gets easier, right? But after like the first 7 or 8 times, she was like, okay, boredom is good for your mind.
I think that's really good to instill that at such a young age. Like you said, it becomes then part of their makeup, so it's easier to fall back on those habits.
Yeah, totally. And like I'm saying it as much, no, I'm saying it as much for them as I am for me because we have the same problem. I mean, why was I going to check email? Why was I going to check like Facebook? Why was I going to check Instagram? And social media is easier for me to get off of than work stuff because work stuff is like the social media for me, right? It's like the burning fire, the quick responses.
Yeah, you like to know it's all out. It's done. Everything's done on your docket. Okay, cool. And then you're like 2 hours later, what if someone told me to do something? Like that's kind of where the brain is with work.
Yeah, because the mind's always running on that, right? It's always fixated.
Actually, I noticed that too, right? When Allie and I go outside, when we walk butters or just going outside, she's very fidgety. She likes to just do something with her hands all the time. So we call it the Allie thing. So I've given it a name, and she can do it. We're at home. She takes a pencil. She just wants to fidget. Okay, that's fine, but not always, right? That's why I've made that compartment. Do it, but then there's sometimes when you don't, right? Because it's just this. It is a little thing. It's something to do, right? So when we go outside, I'm always like, you can't do that. Like, we're not doing the Allie thing. And she's like, okay, then what? And I was like, we're going to explore. We're going to enjoy. We're going to look at the bird that just flew above us, But a lot of the reasons I do it is because I recognize how I don't do it. You know, I want to be more present, and I want to recognize what's around me, and I want to appreciate what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, and quiet down my mind. So it helps me to tell Alyssa.
Yeah, and to keep on practicing with it. And I think when we understand the struggles of how difficult something is, we can be more compassionate towards our children and really help them along the journey as opposed to just like telling them to do something.
Oh, exactly. Exactly. I 100% agree with that. And there's like never an instant when if I say something to her, I'll be like, you make sure mommy does the same thing, you know, because I struggle with that too. You know, it's important to do that because that's part of the whole honesty, honest with yourself, but also honest with your kids. So it translates if you do have a pretty honest relationship with yourself.
Yeah, totally. So today, this morning, I've been like, so I spend a lot of the mornings, like I wake up, I think, you know, like I wake up in the morning. My first thought whenever I wake up is, oh no, what time is it? Because so many years of like having trouble sleeping, I'm always nervous that it's like 1:30 in the morning or 2:30 in the morning, you know?
No, I understand that.
But my second thought is, oh, once I check the time, which I only check the time when it's a little light outside, and I know that it's some part of the morning, the sun has risen, but then I will try to meditate because it's a good time. Like my house is quiet, and generally my mind is quiet too. And something that I've been working on and struggling with a little bit, but I'm going to keep working on it, is this concept of being in love. And have you heard of this?
Being in love with the present moment?
Just being in love. The idea is like being in love at all times, like just being engrossed in and being in love, being present rather than giving and receiving love. So one is transactional. Giving and receiving love is like, Lisa, I really love you. And I feel that love for you when we hang out, so I tell you. Or maybe you come to mind and I buy something for you, or I make something for you and I send it to you. And then when you get it, you feel love. And maybe you pass that love along, which is great. Like we need those things. But trying to get to the next level, being in love, which means that the sending and the receiving, like those transactional things matter less because we're able to just like constantly be connected with the people that we love, to the things that we're doing. And I know it sounds a little hokey.
No. This is nice.
But it's a frame of mind for me. And it's the opposite of what I was describing, being on vacation in another country, checking in with text messages or email to see if a contract was signed. That's the extreme. And the other end of it is like, be present, be in the moment. And another aspect for me is like, let things in the past go and let the people stay, even though the things can go, because I struggle with that. So it's like this whole mindset. And I've been trying to like kind of meditate on that. How can I do that? How can I incorporate that into my life? When I incorporate into my life, what else will come with it? What other good things come with it? And then how do I teach my kids that? Because the thing that I don't want them to have is the two things I really want my children to not experience is one, being desperate for someone to love them, and two, holding on to the past.
Right. That's hard. That's difficult.
Yeah, both of those are really tough.
That sounds awesome, though. I'm really glad that you're spending your mornings doing that, just being more present in the morning, you know, not just waking up and appreciating whatever's around you and not being on your phone and kind of connecting with what's around you versus what's on that phone, you know?
Right. And I think like the setting and like an intention for the day, and intentionality, we've talked a little bit about how it can be very important and motivating.
Yeah.
So I'm just testing it out. And you know me, I'm not like super competitive. I'm not a big, like, I'm going to change my lifestyle today person. I just do things like for 3 days. Everything, like my entire life has been like, I'm going to just do this for 3 days, tomorrow and the day after.
Oh, okay. So you reset it. After 3 days, you're just like, I'll do it another 3 days. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And once you make 7 rounds of 3 days, it's 21 days, which supposedly then it becomes a habit.
Yes, that's right.
Well, I'm glad that your vacation went well and you got some self-reflection time.
Oh, thanks. You know, I think one of the things like we need to make a priority, especially in our circle of other moms and dads, is like, how do parents get the time to be alone, to recharge? Because we have to be our best selves for our kids. So what is it? You know, is it just waking up before them and going for a walk, like doing a sunrise walk? Or getting that time like in the afternoon, get a babysitter for no reason.
I think it's all of it. And I think a key to all of this is time management. I want to have my me time, and I'm not going to sacrifice that. So I say no to friends if I need to, because like you just said, you deserve to be your best.
No, totally. Yeah. And everybody else deserves that too.
Yes, they do. They deserve the best version of me. So in order for me to do it, I need that time, and in order for me to have that time, I really need to manage my time, which can be stressful. But then I like allocate 1 hour towards I'm going to be stressed, and then I'll be okay. Just
Yeah, to get through with it. Yeah, I think like it's like I'm like now thinking like you got to push the easy button and order pizza for your kids so that you can go out and not have to like make them an organic like whatever dinner. Like it's okay. Nothing's bad is going to happen to them.
No, exactly. That's what we do all the time. Hence, my child eats the same salad every week, twice a week.
On designated days. So one something we can kind of talk about. I know we had been getting some comments a couple weeks ago about like vacation, what are good vacation spots and things like that. So I think that would be fun to talk about from like what are child-friendly vacation spots. But one thing I want to share with you and with our listeners is like we had used Airbnb quite a bit. We stayed with a lot of family too, which I think is nothing beats being with family and having home cooked meals and having that bonding time. But staying at Airbnbs, you get a little bit more space. You generally have a kitchen and maybe like a living area. So that was really nice rather than being in like a classic hotel room. I think there's pros and cons.
I don't know. I'm always scared. I'm like, I'm going to get that one house where someone's a freak and something's going to happen. It's stupid.
Okay, so that fear is not an invalid fear. And I will say like we had a case in one apartment where like our air conditioning didn't work. And then we had one where there was no Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Which my kids really felt like was like demonic times. You know, they're like, why is there no Wi-Fi?
No Wi-Fi.
So there are like, it's not perfect,
Right.
but it can be nice. And
Yeah.
just having the space. So I think you really need to like check the reviews and look at the ratings. And
Well, it's cheaper, right? All in all, it's cheaper, right, than a hotel.
it is, it's cheaper.
That's a pro right there. But I like hotels. That's just part of, ever since I was a kid, I just like hotels. I just like getting out, going to the lobby. I've always liked hotels. I mean, we traveled everywhere when we lived in Germany, and my dad would be like, let's go explore. And I was like, can we just stay at the hotel? So
That's so funny. That's like my kids. Like, hey, who wants to see the Parthenon? Is it going to rain? I don't know if it's going to rain. Let's go see this, 2,000-year-old building.
Right.
Seems like it might rain outside. And I'm like, oh my gosh. My kids, they're like, oh, Netflix has video, like aerial video of this in 4K for one of the things. And I was like, oh my gosh, guys, the sense of place. Let's go and see it. Let's go stand where Zeus stood, and they're like, Zeus isn't real. And I was like, oh my gosh, get out. So it was funny.
Oh, well, I'm glad you had a really good vacation. And, I need one. I'm sitting here working on the documentary. Hey, speaking of, can I give you one of the quotes? One of your quotes? Are you ready?
Sure.
So in the beginning, I ask, do you love being a mom? And you know what you say? Yes, I love being a mom. Laughs. I'm just kidding. It's good. On most days. You're like squirming.
Hey.
Oh, that's going to go great with like the music I have. So
That's hilarious. Okay, remember what I said at the top of the podcast? It's good to always be honest, because then you're never surprised.
exactly.
That answer holds true, everyone. I hope it holds true for you as well. And with that, we'll wrap up this episode of It's Your Time to Shine. Thanks for listening.